you giving us like a go?
We're ready to start. You can start.
All right. Well, good evening, class. Thank you for being here on a Friday. Hope you're excited. So first off, I just want to make sure that everybody get one of these right here. Cool. All right. Did everybody get their candy?
Yeah.
Even though they weren't supposed to, but cool.
Yeah.
All right. So my name is Eric, and we're gonna dig in today with our 5 tips to knowing a diverse audience. So today, our goal today is to make sure that you take these 5 recommendations to know your audience. Whenever you give a speech, a presentation, or you're trying to just teach anything or an idea, we want to make sure you take away today the skills, the confidence to be able to know who you're talking to, whether it's directly or indirectly. So for our agenda today, we're gonna be reviewing in depth the 5 major recommendations. The topics are diversity. We have culture norms, cultural biases, empathy, and credibility. And then we're going to be jumping into an activity, which will lead us into empathy. And we're going to conclude with a summary over the 5 topics. Then we're going to have time for questions and answers. And we are going to take a quick quiz. Okay, so before I show you this video right here, I want you to keep in mind as you watch the video, experiences you've had where an assumption was made about you, a stereotype based on just your appearance. For example, I'll tell you, me at work, they see, I'm guessing, brown skin. They come up to me, they're like, oh, this guy must speak Spanish, so they start speaking to me Spanish. I do speak Spanish, but people assume that about me. I'm thinking because of the way I look. Second, most people think I'm from Mexico, so maybe they'll assume I'm from Mexico, which I do love Mexico, but I'm not from Mexico. So those are the stereotypes I kind of experienced myself. Now I want you to think about the ones that happened to you, if any, or maybe sometimes that you, not on purpose, have portrayed on somebody else. So go ahead and play the video.
Hi there.
Hi.
Nice day, huh?
Yeah, finally, right?
Where are you from? Your English is perfect.
San Diego. We speak English there.
Where are you from?
Well, I was born in Orange County, but I never actually lived there.
I mean before that.
Before I was born.
Yeah, like, well, where are your people from? What?
Well, my great-grandma was from Seoul.
Korean. I knew it. I was like, she's either Japanese or Korean. But I was leaning more towards Korean.
Amazing.
I'm Shashi. There's a really good teriyaki barbecue place near my apartment. I actually really like kimchi.
Cool. What about you? Where are you from?
San Francisco.
But where are you from?
No, I'm just American.
Really? You're Native American?
No, just regular American. Oh, well, I guess my grandparents are from England.
Oh, well. Oh, Governor! What's all this then? Drop the ball to you. It's your sporty. Double, total in trouble. Under you, beware, Jack the Ripper. Bloody hell! Whip, whip. Cheerio! I think your people's fish and chips are amazing. Really? Weird? Must be a Crane thing.
All right, so yeah, talk about awkward, maybe, not as intense as that, but that definitely does happen. I think I've been, like I said, in situations like that myself. So as we go through this presentation, I want you to keep in mind about the 5 major recommendations we make and maybe how they could have been applied on both sides and how the conversation could have been differently, maybe not as awkward and maybe not just so stereotypical. I will be handing it off to Elizabeth. We'll get into diversity.
Hello everybody, so now I am going to talk to you guys about diversity. Now, why is diversity important? Well, just by simply taking a look around this room, we can there's more than one culture being exemplified. It is very diverse. Now, according to Disserhurst in 2007, in a study done by the Cultural Diversity Journal, he said he best described diversity as being displayed and portrayed in today's society, and in the United States alone, as the cultural melting pot. Because it's a mixture of all cultures coming together and bringing out the best. He further said diversity, when cultures experience diversity and portray their diversity, then pretty much it creates cultural awareness. It creates cultural awareness. It promotes cultural awareness, decreases stereotypes, cultural harassments, and also diversity can be very important within corporations. For example, by embracing diversity within a corporation, within an organization, it reduces by embracing diversity within the corporations, it reduces cultural stereotypes. It prevents the corporation from receiving harassment or from being involved into lawsuits. Because diversity enhances and promotes the individuals within the corporations by improving their productivity, because they would feel more comfortable being at work within their groups. Also, some of the common mistakes made before by some international corporations were that in the past, during the 1990s, we have here IBM and Coca-Cola, where both of these corporations are on the total opposite of the diversity spectrum. For example, on one hand, we have IBM, which clearly exemplifies and engages and promotes cultural diversity. It incorporated diversity into one of their, making it one of their core values. They did this by creating what they call the executive task forces. They created 8 subgroups within their organization, which were pretty much composed of the different ethnic cultures that they had. They had Asians, they had Hispanics, they had Blacks, they had Native Americans. They also had gays, bisexuals, transgenders, people with disabilities, and men and women. Which these people, now by having their own group at work, they felt more comfortable because they felt that the corporation not only cared about their job itself, but they cared as individuals. Now, on the other hand, we have Coca-Cola, which Coca-Cola during the 1990s, they made a public statement which they said that they were being fully compliant with the laws and regulations regarding diversity. However, in 1999, Coca-Cola turned out to, a lawsuit was filed against Coca-Cola, and it turned out to be one of the biggest lawsuits regarding diversity and, regarding racial discrimination, which of course they lost, and they had to pay $192.5 million. Now, the accusations that were being made against Coca-Cola is that some of their employees felt that they were not being treated equally in regards to the opportunities of advancement, of hire, and they also felt that they were getting paid 1/3 less than white people. And also some of the executives, some of the employees within the executive positions within Coca-Cola, they feel that they were being demeaned, degraded, and of course that they weren't being treated equal because of the way that they look, of their skin color, of their cultural background. So of course the overall result of this was that Coca-Cola lost the lawsuit, and of course they had to pay this huge lump sum of money, and the court pretty much appointed the court designated 7 officials to follow up on this issue. And nowadays, it turns out that Coca-Cola is ranked amongst one of the highest for diversity, within the diversity spectrum. And that concludes my discussion about diversity. Now I am going to hand it over to Eric, which will further discuss cultural norms.
Thank you, Elizabeth. All right, so then going into cultural norms, why do cultural norms matter? So, to begin with, it's going to help you know what's respectful to the audience. You definitely want to come off as respectful, and you want to genuinely be respectful. It also will help you find common ground between you and the audience. So, showing respect, know what cultural groups you have in your audience. This will help you establish the cultural norms, which you should take into consideration when making your presentation, your speech. You want to have strategically keep that in mind as you're doing it. This will help you to stay away from stereotyping. Falling into stereotypes is very easy, even though sometimes we may think we're not doing it. We may be doing it, and we may be offending somebody. So we definitely want to know when we do it in speeches and presentations. Keep that in mind. It'll help you ask yourself, am I taking notice on behavior, or am I just judging when you're going to be delivering? As well, when we go into that how. So once again, certain cultures, the way their norms are, it's going to portray an opinion. It's going to be they're going to base their opinion off of those norms. As well, what they find persuasive, what they like, what they don't like. So to give you an example, let's say in some places, if there's too much of a distance between us, right off the back, I guess you could say it's not appealing. They're going to be disengaged. While in others, if I'm maybe right here, too close to you, that's invading your privacy. While in other countries or cultures, it's like face-to-face is the best. So you want to keep that in mind. When you start developing your actual presentation and your speech, it'll help you better encode that message that you're trying to decode. Now, the common mistakes that can be made is if you are stereotyping. So like I said, it is easy to fall into stereotyping. So without you knowing your audience, without you knowing their culture, without you knowing anything about them, and going back to cultural norms, like I said, it is very easy to offend somebody. It's very easy to group somebody, which in a sense, like I said, will just disengage your audience. The other thing is you may know about these norms, you may know about their cultures, what they like, what they don't like, but you simply don't apply it. So you just simply know about it, but you don't put it in your speech, in your presentation, take it into consideration, which is, you could say, I guess, just as bad. So now I'm going to be handing it over to cultural biases, Ryan.
Thank you. All right, so cultural biases are a lot like cultural norms, except the complete opposite of the spectrum. Cultural biases are typically what we would assume about a culture if we hadn't done our research. There are both positive and negative cultural biases. For example, I could say all librarians are well-read. That's a positive cultural bias. You can assume because they're librarians, they're probably well-read. However, on the opposite end, a negative bias would be that all librarians are unfashionable. So it's very easy to fall into stereotypes with that. Now, when is this important? When you're speaking in groups, you have to be aware of the biases that you possess about certain cultures if you haven't done your research or if you just kind of wing it. Now, this is especially important when you're speaking in other cultures because their norms might not be what you assume. Now, how do you realize and prevent yourself from having cultural biases, whether they're positive or negative? You know, your biggest pro is going to be researching. You're going to want to analyze your audience. You're going to want to go out, do the legwork, and just figure out who you're talking to, and what they might perceive, or what you perceived about them that might not be correct. Now, when you're presenting and applying this to your presentations, you want to focus on the positive biases that you have. You want to focus on librarians being well-read. Now, a lot of common mistakes definitely fall into the stereotyping. It is very rude, it will harm your speaking, it harms your speeches. Anything that you can do that is stereotyping most likely is going to promote a disinterest with the speaker and the audience and disengage your entire argument. Now, speaking of disengaging your audience, one of the best ways to re-engage them is to be empathetic towards how they might feel. Now, I'm gonna transition it to Robert, who's gonna lead us in a small activity to help understand our empathy.
All right, everybody, you should have a sticker. It's a little dot on your pamphlet, on your handout. It's right on the first page. They're there for a purpose. All right, this next activity, this activity we're going to do is kind of a way for you guys to think about what's happening to different groups. Not only here, but in here while we do this activity. I want you to relate it to something that happened to you or a previous experience or something that has happened to you or a friend while we're doing this activity. It's something I want you to think about. Don't talk amongst each other while we're doing this activity. I want you to process everything that's going on around the room. All right? So what's going to happen is everybody on the left-hand side should have red stickers. I believe you guys in the back row should have green stickers. And then you guys should have yellow, correct? All right, so the back row, what I want you guys to do is to stand up and face the wall. You guys are gonna be my 65-year-olds and plus. The left side, you guys are gonna be my 35 to 45-year-olds. You guys can have candy, you can just sit there for a little bit. And then you guys have to stand up. Go ahead, just stand up. And then what you guys over here on the left-hand side can do, just have them do some side straddle hop, well not side straddle hops, or just do some like exercises with their arms, or stand on one leg, or Simon says, nothing that can harm them. You guys just pick somebody and then kind of just pick on them. They're under 18 over here, okay? So you got to understand that they're under 18. All right, does everybody understand what's going to happen? All right, I'll give you guys 2 minutes to go ahead and indulge in your activities. You guys in the back, you guys are old, don't watch what's happening. All right, go ahead and.
Can someone put together a 10-page report for me? I need some information. So whoever has the most time.
No.
Hey, you guys don't want to tell
You gotta tell me why you need it. You gotta tell me why you need it.
Yeah, so I have a really important presentation in the morning. It's actually on Monday.
Why'd
I
you
need to review the
procrastinate?
materials, and so what's up?
Why'd you procrastinate?
No, it's your job as an analyst, right? So playing with your game. I'm like a managing director, and I need a presentation to be presented on Monday. I'm just playing with my
I know. I'm being Generation Z right now.
It's like fighting
Go to your room. No, I told y'all to talk to you. Oh, tell them what to do. Tell them to hop on one leg.
Hop on one leg.
Yeah, everybody.
Let me guess, you're all millennials. You know it all.
Do you guys want some candy?
If I headbutt somebody, they were told to jump on one leg.
Y'all can tease them over here too. Y'all want candy?
like represent
I get candy. I bet
Yeah.
I get a treat.
These middle-aged people.
First person to put together this 10-page report for me,
They
I'll
are.
reward myself.
Hopefully you guys
Can I
are a little more
count to 10, put it on
creative.
paper?
We got to get them back. Because I got some ideas for you people.
No.
Hey, you guys should behave, we'll take care of I think that was it.
Hey, the rest of us senior staff need some coffees before our meeting.
I can't leave the class.
By the way, I'll need boys having that.
Those are pretty
You just probably don't know that.
Hold on, wait, so we're the older guys, right?
Yeah, you're
like we're
35 to
management at
45.
a company, for example.
You could be management, whatever, and they're
I don't think you'd ever make manager with that attitude, my friend. Trust me.
It was a joke going with their game. You understand? Not like
Mr. Young.
Bro, he said like tell them to do things. Like I'm not actually saying put together a report.
He said tell him to hop around and make exercises, not fetch reports
Give me
and
paper.
get coffee.
Tease them with the candy.
Give me paper.
But it was like a representation of a real life thing, like hop on your foot. Isn't hopping on your foot more like demeaning than getting a 10-page report? Like
I think we're getting sidetracked.
No. Hop on your foot.
All right, listen up.
That's the worst
Corral your
management
audience.
All right, listen up. What's going to happen now is we're going to rotate clockwise. So everybody on the left-hand side, go ahead and start pushing to the back. You guys in the back, push to the right. And then once these guys...
So I get to pay back this 10-page report here.
Yep. So let's get going on this. We got a minute. So go ahead. You guys in the back, go ahead and go to the left. And then you guys just come on over here.
Coming over here?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't want it. I don't have to.
I'm sitting down. They got.
You might want to tell him.
Is that what former policemen do?
What we want to do. You want to tell him?
Hey, if you guys were facing the back, go ahead and come over here to the 18-year-old pool. We don't get revenge. We have to.
This is very interesting.
You guys got to.
Y'all are the old people, or the middle-aged people now.
Oh, we are. Right.
All right, go ahead. All right, what's going to happen? You guys are 18. Hey, y'all in the back, you go ahead and face the wall. Don't worry about what's going on up here. Hey, you guys are the young people. You're just getting into the service. And, you know, you got to do you got to qualify on the left-hand side. You guys are telling these guys over here how to qualify.
Qualify?
Okay, never mind. So you guys are telling these, you know, they're new young bucks coming into the office. You know, they haven't.
That's what we're doing.
Okay. They could be under 18. They're on their training wheels. All right. So, all right. Your 2 minutes are going to start now. Y'all kick back your shoes up.
Mr. Scientist. Mr. Scientist.
Cowboys hat. Do you mind picking up the trash on my desk because I don't have a time. I gotta send
Do
this
that.
email. I really need to send this email to my manager. He's calling me right now.
I want you
He's really
to
bugging.
do this over and
Why
over
you doing
again.
that? You got it.
Over and over again. All right, top hat. Do this over like for a minute. No, keep going, everybody. No, not you. We're still doing the same thing, Mr. Scientist. There you go. Miss Nurse Lady.
No, but I'm serious. Can you bring my other Reese's candy for me though? 'Cause I have it all. It's right there.
Hey, y'all in the back, face the wall.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just I have it all. I don't answer it.
Twirls. Spin a little bit. Businessman, not Nurse Lady. Nurse Lady.
My boss sent me a business call, so thanks.
All right, if y'all do this, y'all all get raises. Oh my God, it's amazing. Okay, come on, guys.
I'm turning or singing. What's your
Y'all can stop. Y'all are amazing. Y'all are definitely hitting pace this week.
Thank you. I appreciate you getting a tip and
Sure. It might be great. Badly, so.
I didn't treat any of
All right.
my stuff like this.
All right, let's go ahead and take a moment and pause for a second. Listen up. All right, so what we're going to do is the same rotation, then y'all get to be 18 and these guys get to torment you. Hey, y'all go ahead and go to the back, and then y'all in the back go ahead and come to the right.
You hang up from a tree, hang down on a tree upside down. You gotta say hang from a tree upside down until you fall off. All right, y'all just relax and get some candy back there. All right, y'all in the back, be quiet. You're the 65 plus. Hey, y'all on the left, you're the 45 to 35 age group. Hey, y'all on the right, you can't sit down. You
can't sit down. Y'all can sit down, pop a squat, and eat some candy. And hey, don't forget, these guys on the right-hand side, you need to show them what to do, or at least
Tell them what to do.
tell them what to do, because they're lost. They're lost. Yeah, they're confused. All right, go ahead. Your time starts now.
Okay.
I'm free.
All of them. They're not willing to participate.
Hey, y'all got participate.
We don't have to, okay?
They're 18 and under, so.
Oh my God.
We do what we want to do.
Haven't you experienced those generational issues?
Sounds about right, yeah.
I am entitled to do what I want to do.
You are happy, yeah. Sounds about right, too. They were eating their candy here.
Y'all don't want to tell them what to do?
Huh? Tell them what to do, yeah.
They are engineers, right?
Sing one of your favorite songs. All of you. I can't sing.
All right, y'all all right, everybody, go ahead and go back to your seats.
Good job, everybody.
Good job.
Pretty good idea.
Professor, how many people are in this class total?
All right, so what I want y'all to do now is go ahead and just kind of shake it out, whatever you guys process your thoughts and really think about what's going on around here. All right? So take a minute to think about what happened, and then we're going to go ahead and reflect on some questions that I got for you afterwards. All right? And thank you for participating and eating all the chocolate. Shake it out. Relax. All right.
Sure.
You should.
Are we writing it down or raising our hand?
All right. So what I want y'all to do is look at these questions. Go ahead and read these questions up here for just take about 3 minutes and process what happened and think about these questions. A lot of them are, they want you to think about what happens on your daily life. Like I said at the beginning, is what has happened in the past. Have you been treated like this in the past? If so, how did it impact you today? How does it make you go about your business? Does it make you does it make you think about how you treat somebody else today, whereas you wouldn't have if you didn't experience that? So go ahead and think about these questions. I'm going to go ahead and ask a couple of y'all how it felt, and then we'll move from there. All right? And I'll give you until 5 till.
Yeah, it's good point. You're
Just think about it. Just think about it. You don't need to write it down. Process it. No, it wasn't. I wanted to. Just process it. Think about it. How would how does it help? How you
Kind of here as the modern.
All right, it sounds like a lot of y'all are already done. So let's go ahead and talk about this first question. How did you feel during each stage of the game? Meaning from whenever you were 35, from the 35 to 45 age group, standing on the back of the wall, just minding your own business, or and 18 and under, and you're just getting into a workforce, or you're being bossed by somebody. Go ahead.
Well, I guess the old people thing, I didn't like that one because I did not want to face the wall and be ignored. So that's kind of how I felt over there.
Did it make you think about anything, like as a kid, or whenever, or something that has happened recently where, you know, you may have been isolated from anybody?
I'd rather not share, but yeah.
Go ahead.
Personally, the whole facing the wall thing, I was like, well, you know, older people like to be more intrusive, yet they are ignored. So it's like they are very forward, and they're not quiet about things and reserved, holding back, but they are ignored because they, you know, people fear talking to them, which is bad. That's the stereotype. Yet they are like, I'm not facing that stereotype towards people too.
Have you tried to shift that that stereotype around anyway?
Oh, I love them. There's no stereotype. What are you talking about? No, yeah, that's what I was thinking the whole time.
That's it for that one. We'll go ahead and move forward. Go ahead. Go ahead. All right. Does this game reflect how people in different ages are treated in your community? Have you seen this in your community? Go ahead.
So I mean, what was super cool about this one was sort of both ends. Like, generally my perspective is that of like a young person or an intern or like an entry-level position at a job. But sort of like on this side, right, you have the older people who sort of have like a track record and that sort of thing. I was fortunate, like at one company I was at, we had a really like agile like supervisors and management, and they were really nice and knowing like hard work. And then somewhere else, like the interns, man, they just give them all sort of like the desk work and like the sort of go home and do those sort of tasks, and it's really awful. You don't get any real life or tangible experience, and so it was cool to sort of see that play out.
I have an experience from whenever I was in the service. The gentleman back there, the specialist that's in the Army, he made me think about it. You know, when you first get into the Army, you know, you get to your barracks, especially if you're active duty. I don't know if they do it in the reserves. You get to your barracks, and they just smoke you, and then they treat you like you're the mud in the dirt. I mean, it's probably a little more old school than what is now, and they treat you like that until you're either until you're a specialist, pretty much. And generally, it takes you about 6 months to get specialist. So when I became an E6 in the service, I carried that forward for a little bit, and then started changing that process, that thought process, especially whenever I was downrange and we'd get brand new privates just coming out of basic training, and we're going into Afghanistan. So I had to empathize. I had to have a little more empathy towards them. I'm shifting the whole thought process. We'll go ahead and talk about the next one. What are the other groups in the community do you feel are in exclusion? Anybody? Not kids, or what about the 20s to 20s to 35, or handicap?
Kids for sure.
All right, we'll move on to the next one. Where do you think exclusion and oppression like this happens around in the world?
Everywhere. Unspoken, spoken.
Everywhere. All right, so with that being said, we'll go ahead and go into empathy. And empathy is getting in touch with your feelings and creating that connection with somebody else's feelings. So it helps you better understand other people. When you tell me a story, or you give me, you want to, bless you, or you sneeze, I think about, you know, I've done that before, and how do you experience that now, or how do you relate to them whenever they're sneezing? Do you continue talking, or do you say God bless you, or do you move forward from that? It also helps you engage others when they're down. I know for me, I'm pretty detached. I kind of stay detached from people, and I try to provide I try to be a little more empathetic. However, I'm not. But I generally don't get my message across because of that. And when you're given a presentation, if you can empathize with the group, which generally you'll know, how they act as a group, or their culture, their environment is, or their culture is, because you've done that research, you're able to find that common ground when you're out there, before you give a presentation. If you work at the company, then you're already understanding the culture or the environment, so you're able to know who's talking, who's talking behind your back, or who's saying this, or all the little birds that's going around, or the grapevine that you call it, going around, so you know what to avoid, or you can be a little more empathetic towards that group as a whole. And how do you become more empathetic, or how do you apply it? You really have to have active listening. You have to stop talking. You have to listen to the person, look at them, make that eye contact. Or you can ask for help to make yourself a little more vulnerable. And I think for me, that's a big thing. Is I don't know how to ask for help. I like to do things by myself, and I'll keep going until somebody says, "Hey, I'm going to take this over." And I'd imagine there are a few of us out there that are like that. And you can relate to me whenever, hey, I like to get things done, and nobody else does it better than me. However, that's not the case. So to exercise empathy, you have to ask for help or make yourself vulnerable and really think about what they're saying. Process what they're saying. Think, what's the big picture, and then what's the small picture, and then really, reflect on it, and then logically, think about it, and then get back to that person. Not just, oh, that happened to you. Oh, I'm sorry about that, man. See you later. Any kind of situation like that. And some of the mistakes out there that are made whenever, oftentimes empathy is replaced with sympathy, or being more sympathetic, and it leads to different wrong assumptions, or a message being misconstrued, and your message will not be as persuasive as you would like it to be, or it may come across wrong. And if you're not actively listening, then you'll